Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I am Star Hefzibah, Star for short. It is such an honor and a pleasure to be here with each and every one of you guys. I thank you so very much for your support. So the message that the Lord has for me to release on this morning is random. It really is random. I just, wanted to just see what was on the heart of the Lord. And so I randomly opened up my Bible, and the page that I opened it to was 111, right? And so, oftentimes I like to read both pages, right? And then sometimes I'll go onto the page before and the page after. I thought Yahweh was going in one direction until I sat for a minute and I was like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. And it's just so amazing. Like, I just felt so much of the Father's love because He knows our hearts, right? And I can be a little bit protective of Yahweh, right? So I heard something that kind of, it just, it bothered my spirit, right? I heard something that bothered my spirit. And I was like, you know what, I'm not petty, so I'm going to let it go, right? And I did. And because He knows my heart, He knows it's something that triggered me, because when it comes to His word, I am very intentional when it comes to His word and when it comes to my relationship with Him. And so I try not to allow the pettiness to bother me or to intervene, right? And so that's my way of checking myself, And I did, and I checked myself, and I check myself daily. But what was so beautiful about this was I felt Yahweh was saying, I know that it pricked your spirit, and it pricked your spirit for a reason. And so He honors us when we let go, when we don't hold on to the pettiness, to the offense, right? He honors that. And so because I let it go, He said, now I'm going to address it, and I'm going to allow you to be the messenger of it, right? Because, like I said, I let it go, and I refuse to take part in those things that the enemy is trying to just bring forth annoyances on. I refuse to let that happen. And so this is an example of when you fully let go and let Yah, He will do it. And so that's why it was just so like, wow, yeah. When He allowed me to open up the word and it opened up to this message, I was like, okay. And so as per Yah's instructions, I am releasing this message, and I hope that you receive it, because it is truly coming from the throne of Yah. And it's important. It really, really is. It's important. Yahweh is not going to waste His time in releasing certain messages if it does not play a significant role in our lives. All right. So let's head to Exodus chapter 3. And I am going to start at verse 13. It says, Then Moses said to God, Behold, when I come to the Israelites and say to them, The God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they say to me, What is His name? What shall I say to them? God said to Moses, I am who I am. And He said, You shall say this to the Israelites, I am has sent me to you. Then God also said to Moses, This is what you shall say to the Israelites, The Lord Yah, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial to all generations. And so when we look at the very specific name of God, like we have to go a little bit deeper. So, in thy getting, the word tells us, in thy getting, get all understanding, right? We need to understand that when we are reading, we need to go a little bit deeper, right? We go into our prayer, we go into the Strong's Concordance, we go into, because you don't only have to use a strong concordance for numbers. You can use them to look into the in-depth understanding and definition of words as well. We go into our footnotes. We go into other books of references in order to gain a deeper understanding. Sometimes we go into other translations of the Bible in order to get a deeper understanding or a fuller understanding. As we know, God is a title. It is a title. It is not his name. It's a title. And so the Lord took me. So when I opened up my Bible to pages, actually it was 110 and 111, and I read both pages in its entirety. I read the previous page, and did I go? No, I didn't go into the page after, but I read the previous page and the 2 pages that I opened up the Bible to. And the Lord took me to the footnotes. And so in the footnotes, it says there are 3 primary names of God: Elohim, Jehovah or Yahweh, and Adonai. Each of these names emphasizes a different aspect of the nature of Yah. The name Elohim occurs 31 times in Genesis, where it emphasizes his strength and creative power. The name Yahweh is most often used to express God's self-existence in relation to humanity. Adonai means master and underscores the authority of Yah. When Moses objected to returning to Egypt, one of his excuses was he did not know Yah's name. By that he meant he did not understand enough about Yah's authority. Yah solved this problem by revealing himself as the I am, that is Yahweh. Because Yah reveals himself in his names, Christians should understand them to better serve him. All right, so let's go to Exodus chapter 4. It says, "And Moses answered and said, But behold, they will not believe me, nor hearken unto my voice, for they will say, The Lord hath not appeared unto thee. And the Lord said unto him, What is that in thy hand? And he said, A rod. And he said, Cast it on the ground. And he cast it on the ground, and it became a serpent. And Moses fled from before it. The Lord Yah said unto Moses, Put forth thy hand, and take it by the tail. And he put forth his hand, and caught it, and it became a rod in his hand, that they may believe that the Lord Yah of their fathers, Yahweh of Abraham, Yah of Isaac, and Yah of Jacob, have appeared unto thee. And the Lord said furthermore unto him, Put now thy hand into thy bosom. And he put his hand into his bosom. And when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous as snow. And he said, Put thy hand back into thy bosom again. And he put his hand into thy bosom again, and plucked it out of his bosom. And behold, it was turned again as his other flesh. And it shall come to pass, if they will not believe thee, neither hearken to the voice of the first sign, that they will believe the voice of the latter sign. And it shall come to pass, if they will not believe also these two signs, neither hearken unto thy voice, that thou shalt take of the water of the river, and pour it upon the dry land, and the water which thou takest out of the river shall become blood upon the dry land. All right. Verse 10 says, and Moses said unto the Lord, O my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither heretofore, nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant, but I am slow of speech, and of a slow tongue. And the Lord said unto him, who hath made man's mouth? Who has marked the dumb or deaf, or the seeing or the blind? Have not I the Lord? Yah. Now therefore go, and I will be with thy mouth, and teach thee what thou shalt say. And he said, O my Lord Yah, send, I pray thee, by the hand of him who thou wilt send. Verse 14 says, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses. And he said, is not Aaron the Levite thy brother? I know that he can speak well. And also, behold, he cometh forth to meet thee. And when he seeth thee, he will be glad in his heart. And thou shalt speak unto him, and put words in his mouth. And I will be with thy mouth, and with his mouth, and I will teach you what ye shall do. And he shall be the spokesman unto the people, and he shall be, even he shall be to thee instead of a mouth, and thou shalt be to him instead of God. And thou shalt take his rod in thy hand, wherewith thou shalt do signs. All right, so let's stop there. I felt like there was so much when I read that. I felt like there was so much that Yahweh was saying. It was just like, wow, okay. Yeah, I will go back and I will give the message to your people. What Yahweh is saying is that he reveals himself in his names. Okay, if you want to go deeper in Yahuah, if you desire a more fruitful life, if you want your life to be fruitful, if you don't want to become stagnated in the things that you're doing, learn who your creator is. Step out of your comfort zone. Clinging to what you already know is playing it safe. Whenever we find ourselves in a position where we feel safe and we feel comfortable, we should be doing other things that allow us to push the bar. Okay? If you want to see, Yahweh was saying to me, he said, let my people know if they want to see a massive transition in their life, hence the 111, right? Because this is what the Lord was speaking, and also what he was doing in the life of Moses. He was transitioning him. Moses was going through an ascension. He was being risen. And so if you want to rise, if you want to ascend in your life, learn the names of Yah. This walk is not just about what you can receive for yourself or what you can do for others, but it is about what Yah created us for. It's about what we can do for the spirit of Yah in your own intimate relationship. All the other things are going to follow, right? Through that intimate relationship with Yah, you are going to help yourself. You are going to help others. But you also want to strengthen that first relationship in your life with him. Yahweh is saying, if you don't know how to do something, if you don't know how to say something, expand your vocabulary, study, show yourself approved. It's not going to happen overnight. So expect to take some time. But make the decision to know him on a deeper level. Don't get complacent in the titles. Moses was intimidated. He felt inadequate, so much that Aaron was appointed spokesman for Moses, when Moses had the ability to do it for himself. And so where you won't do something, Yahweh is going to send someone else to do it. He's going to have someone else appointed to do it. When you're more than capable of doing it for yourself. And the scripture tells us that this angered Yahweh because Moses didn't trust Yah's ability. He didn't believe that he was equipped. Understand something, man, meaning man and women, man may think you sound crazy. They may think that learning the names of Yah aren't necessary. That it's the same if you say his title as opposed to saying his name. And sometimes, depending upon the context of the message, sometimes I do say God. But most of the times I refer to his name. Yahweh does not want you to fall into the lies of the enemy. If you want to serve Yah in a better way, say his name. The turning point in Moses' life came when he learned the name of Yahweh. He was given a greater anointing. He was given greater tasks. He was given greater favor. Let's think about, when, Yahweh told him to extend his staff. The power that came behind him being able to turn that staff into a serpent and then it being turned back into a staff. That was a tool that he gained because of the elevation that was going on in his life. Yahweh turned his hand into a leprous, and then he turned it back. These were anointings. These were gifts that came with his elevation. But in order to get the people of Israel to follow him, to believe in him, he had to first come by Yah's name. Not just by God. And I remember there was a point in my life before I really started to understand and transition into using Yahweh's names more. I remember I used to say, well, God, how do I know the difference? How do I know when someone is talking about you versus when someone is talking about an enemy? And so now it seems so much clearer to me now. It's like, oh, okay, we're supposed to be using his names. That's one of the ways, right? Because Satan knows his names as well. But as you develop and as you grow, you start to understand, you start to go deeper, you start to mature, you start to go to a different level to where it's like, okay, now I understand. Now I can hear. Some of you feel so stagnated in your walk. You feel stuck. And a lot of the feeling stuck is because you're not going deeper. You're feeling like, okay, I know what it is that I need to know. And the Lord Yah is saying, no, there's so much more to me. Get into those layers. Dive into those layers. Allow him to speak to you. Allow him to minister to your soul, to unveil the different mysteries, the things that the common person will not know and understand because they just stay at the surface. And it's comfortable there. Yahweh didn't call us to be comfortable. He called us to go outside of what feels good. You have to stretch yourself. You have to stretch yourself mentally. You have to stretch yourself physically. You have to stretch yourself spiritually. If you want to know him, start using those names. Start looking up the different names of Yah and learning how to call on him as it pertains to those names. In the word, it says Christians should understand them, meaning the names, to better serve him. We can't be servants. We can't be out here prophets and men and women of Yah claiming to serve him, and we can't say his name. That was one of the things that Moses was like, who do I say sent me? Tell him I am sent. And I am translates to Yahweh. Tell him Yahweh sent you. And when they did, they knew, because they had been under captivity for so long. They were fearful. They needed to be sure that this person that says they're coming in the name of God is really who he says he is. It may sound simple. I know for a lot of you, maybe you grew up in church and you grew up used to hearing the name God or Jehovah, and the same thing applies. If you're used to Jehovah, expand yourself, go outside of that realm. Yahweh has many names. I do myself too, and I need to do better. I need to learn how to call on Elohim. I need to learn how to call on Jehovah Rapha. It's important. And we need to do it in a way where it's intentional. I found something online that speaks about how we all subconsciously call on Yahweh's name without even realizing that we call his name. Because when you say the word Yahweh, it is broken down into breaths. And I thought that it was so interesting. I wanted to share this with you guys. Anytime I find anything, whether it be challenging or not, if I find something and I think it's going to be beneficial to me, if I feel it's going to be beneficial to you, and Yahweh gives me the permission to share it, I'm sharing it. And what I found online, it says the letters YHYW, which appear in the Bible as the 4 Hebrew consonants, are said to represent breathing sounds or aspirated consonants. When pronounced without vowels, Yahweh sounds like breathing, with YH representing an inhale and WH representing an exhale. Some say that Jews breathed God's name with an open mouth and throat, participating in Yah's breath through their breathing. Others say that a baby's first breath or cry or a deep sigh, groan, or gasp also speaks the name of Yah. So, Yahweh is letting us know that it's that deep. It's purposeful. And how much more purposeful is something than to have an intention when you intentionally use his name for his purpose? It brings forth promises. It brings forth understanding. It brings forth deliverance. And so to go a little bit deeper, when I was looking into all of this, I took a snapshot of the little excerpt that I just read to you about the breaths of Yahweh. But when I went back to look at that snapshot, I noticed the time. Yahweh highlighted the time to me. And so I looked up the time, which was 6:32. In the Strong's Concordance, 6:32 means a bond. It means binding obligation, right? Or an oath. And so as Yahweh was just putting this message together, he lets me know there is a bond. There's a different type of bond that forms when you become intentional, when you choose to use his name, when you choose to know him on a deeper level, when you choose to go beyond the surface of it all, there's a bond that you make with Yahuah. There's an oath that you are taking when you choose to know the names of Yah. When you choose to not only seek out the wisdom, the knowledge, and the understanding, but also when you apply the application of it all. Because it's one thing to know something. You can know something and you can read it and say, oh yeah, okay. Rapha means, Yah that heals. Okay. And you know it, but you're not using it. You're not applying it because you've become comfortable where you are. Yahweh is saying there's something that transpires. There's something that happens when you become bonded with him. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. I hope that you guys are getting and understanding what Yahweh is saying. Come to know him more. Know him more. If you want to see more breakthroughs in your life, if you want to see more elevation in your life, come to know him in a more deeper and a more intimate way. I pray that you guys have a beautiful day.